Hello, my name is Pam Young, and today I'm going to talk about promoting literacy with blind and visually impaired learners. In particular, we're going to talk about Pre-Braille, Braille, and large print. My experience is that I'm a qualified teacher of the blind and visually impaired, working in a small class in a residential special school setting. Literacy is a very important aspect of every child's education. In Scotland, Learning and Teaching Scotland have defined literacy as a set of skills which allows an individual to engage fully in society and in learning through the various forms of language and the range of texts which society values and finds useful. Braille, as a form of literacy, has been defined by the RNIB as a tactile reading code that enables blind and partially sighted people to access information by touch, increasing independence and enabling the joy of reading and writing to continue. There are a lot of arguments in favor of Braille. In today's society, a lot of young people are quite keen to be in step with their peer group, using ICT and technology as a means of accessing literacy. However, Braille is also very important, just as important as print. Anyone who cannot read is clearly at a disadvantage in our modern society, even though they may have many other skills. Consequently, Braille is of inestimable value to visually impaired people. A reading skill, however small, can be put to so many uses. In the picture here, you can see a young person reading a wall display describing what is happening on the wall. Not being able to read would cut that person off from a great deal of what is going on around them and would limit their ability to achieve their full potential. This applies especially to those who have a visual impairment. Even when a blind person can only gain a limited capability with Braille, it is still of great benefit to them in their daily life. For example, you can take short notes of messages or telephone numbers. You can label things in the cupboard so that you don't open baked beans when you want to have some fruit salad. Before children are ready to learn Braille, it's important to know that they're ready. Pre-Braille skills involves employing a multi-sensory approach to reading readiness, which helps to build concept development, motor skills development, auditory and tactile discrimination skills. Most importantly, these strategies can help your pupils develop a love of reading. Body awareness, such as naming and identifying different parts of their body and of their self and others. Spatial concepts, such as up, down, over, under, top, bottom, front, back, left, and right, are really important, and these spatial concepts should not just be about themselves, but about themselves with others, about themselves with objects, and about objects with objects. Object identification and labeling, such as same and different, big and little, wide, narrow, thick, thin, hard, soft, etc., all prepare for tactile discriminatory skills. Time awareness, such as yesterday, today, earlier, and later. And finally, really important to know that Braille bumps have meaning. From a really young age, sighted children are understanding that the squiggly lines on a page that they later learn are print have meaning. They see their parents reading them. They see them on the sides of buses, in shops. They understand that these signs, these words, are conveying information. So it's really important that a young blind child understands that the bumps on a page have meaning, even although they're not ready to read them yet. These photographs demonstrate how different lessons within school can be used to promote spatial awareness. In these slides, this young girl is in a PE class, and she's working on left and right, up and down, and over. all concepts that are going to help her understand Braille. In these photographs, this child is playing with a toy animal and a box, learning spatial concepts such as in, out, next to the right, to the left, in front, behind, on top. Motor skills are another important part of readiness to read Braille. Motor skills involve upper body development, such as shoulder, arm, hand, and finger strength. They involve hand strength, such as reaching, grasping, releasing, and manipulating a variety of toys and objects. They also involve using their hands together, coordinated movements and separate movements. In these photographs, you can see a child using clothes pegs and a piece of card. In the exercise, they're taking the pegs out of the bowl and putting them onto the card. So there's a lot of learning happening here. The pegs are in the bowl, they're coming out of the bowl. They're going on the top of the card, on the sides of the card, on the bottom of the card, to the left of the card, to the right of the card, on the card and off the card. And obviously, pinching of the clothes pegs is also helping to develop finger strength. In these photos, bubble wrap is being used to develop finger strength and also to develop left to right coordinated hand movement. A therapy ball is being squeezed to develop hand strength. A piece of foam, cylindrical piece of foam, is being squeezed, and the foam can be squeezed with pointer finger, tall finger, ring finger, and pinky, identifying different fingers. And finally, there's a piece of therapy band that's being stretched to develop arm and shoulder strength. Another important part of Braille readiness are tactile and auditory skills. Sound identification, identifying what is making a certain sound. Sound matching, such as loud and soft, high and low. Sound location, being able to sort the direction that a sound is coming from. Tactile awareness, naming textures, matching textures, such as hard, soft, rough, and smooth, and shape identification. In these photographs, you can see a child. They've got a set of pegs and some shapes. And the shapes all slot onto the pegs, and they are different sizes and shapes. So you've got circles, stars, flowers. You can also do left, right, middle, or you can do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And you can use the bowl again for in, out, and the pegs for on and off. So a lot of learning opportunities in this one activity. Here we're listening to different sounds, a guitar, a cup and a string in a project about Alexander Graham Bell, listening to how sound travels. In these examples, there are some homemade books, and they've got tactile squares on them, and the pupil has to match the correct square. Soft, rough. An important part of readiness for reading for any child is that the parents instill a love of reading from an early age. Talk and write about everyday experiences. Make your own personal books at home. Use books paired with real objects, tactile pictures, textures, books that can be acted out, or recorded books about personal events. Have Braille available around the home for incidental contact. Favorite objects can have Braille labels. Braille books and magazines should be available in the home even before the child is ready to read them. Once a child is ready to learn Braille, there are some really important facts that it's good to keep in mind. Check their posture. Are their hips, ankles, and knees at 90 degrees as they sit at the table? Check the chair and table type and height. Their forearms should be resting comfortably on the table. The pad of the finger should be doing the reading as opposed to the tip. A light touch should always be used. And encourage people to have independent work habits. Additional support needs may dictate change to all or some of the above. In these pictures, you can see pupils making use of a height-adjustable wheeled chair. In the first picture, you can clearly see the pupil's hips, elbows, knees, and ankles all at 90 degrees. To achieve this, the child has a step underneath the table to put their feet on. In the second picture, the child on a wheeled chair is moving side to side between their work and their brailler, reading their assignment, moving to the left to the brailler, back to the right to check what they need to do next. In this example, you can see that the child's arms are resting on the table and that she is sitting upright. In this example, it is necessary for the book to be turned at an angle, as this boy has only left-sided hand use. Ideas for creating a Braille-rich learning environment are also really valuable. Remember that visual learners are bombarded with print in the learning environment. Tactile readers deserve the same privilege. There should be labeling and signs around the classroom, labels on the furniture, the drawer units, the doors, the table, notices such as dining room table plans and menus, individualized Braille timetables for every pupil, and Braille homework diaries. Work folders and jotters in Braille, and systems for filing marked work. One of the systems that has worked really well for me in the past is putting a paperclip on the top of a piece of work if all is correct and it's ready to be filed. In the absence of the paperclip, the child looks down the page and finds a piece of blue tack or similar marker at the start of a line. In that line, he must search for the mistake and correct it at the bottom of the page. You can also use adaptive games such as Dominoes, Shut the Box, or Beetle. In the picture here is an example of a Braille tactile timetable. You can see that the words are in print. On top there is a clear sticky back Braille. To the right of each word there is a tactile signifier which is velcroed on and can be removed once the Braille is learned. And the top of each card is textured so that the pupil can identify the top. It doesn't seem fair to mention tactile reading without giving Moon a bit of attention. Moon is a system of raised shapes which can help blind people of any age to read by touch. The characters are made up of raised lines and curves similar to the print alphabet to create a set of basic shapes. Moon can sometimes be used with children who are finding Braille difficult. One of the limitations of Moon, however, is that it is not easy to write Moon. As the characters are fairly large and over half the letters bear a strong resemblance to the print equivalent, Moon has been found particularly suitable for those who lose their sight later in life. Some children with additional physical and learning difficulties can acquire some literacy skills through learning Moon. There is a picture of a pupil using a Moon book, and this is an example of her work matching Moon characters on the Velcro board and her book. Moving away from Braille now onto large print. Large print is produced around the world for people who have some vision, but are not comfortable or able to access regular print. As a very rough guide, documents are generally considered to be large print if the font is 16 point or higher. This scale continues up until around 48 point text, at which point individuals may prefer to investigate the use of accessible format for their information needs. When aiming to maximize print reading potential, it is really important to conduct a functional visual assessment or consult the most recent assessment. In addition to a formal assessment, it's important to be observant and take note of unusual visual behavior that may indicate a deterioration. Some pupils may not be able to tell you about changes to their vision, so it's very important that we are observing and recognizing changes when they occur. Reducing glare as much as possible by sitting a pupil with his or her back to the window can also help. Consider a pupil's preferred font and print size, and remember that contrast, crowding, and spacing can be more important than size. Be willing and creative in providing adapted resources. It's always good to remember that there's no such thing as a mistake or a wrong resource. Even things that don't work are learning experiences for us as teachers in order to determine what will work. Consider alternative methods of recording, such as using dictaphones, voice recorders, MP3 players. Be familiar with any low vision aids that the pupils might be using, such as magnifiers. Allow time to complete complex tasks, and be aware of the possibility of fatigue. In this example, you can see a pupil using a closed-circuit television to access reading material. In this example, this pupil is unable to use conventional handwriting and is only just developing ICT skills, so individual letter cards are used to enable him to spell his own words. Photographs are then taken of his work and entered into his folder so that he has a record of work completed. In this example, a standard reading book has been adapted into large print. The font is bold. There are extra spaces between the words and the lines, and a guide card with a line, a red line across the top, is being used to aid the pupil. In this example, a pupil is using a book with a picture and a word paired with a real object to complete a recipe. In this picture, the pupil is using a tactile button to press a pre-recorded voice and a picture of a sign so that he can actually produce the sign language alongside the button, the recorded button. And here he is producing the sign. It's really useful reading for you if you're wanting to find out more about Braille, United Kingdom Association of Accessible Formats, Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, Perkins School for the Blind, and Path to Literacy. All have very useful information. In terms of environment, there's a conflict between creating an environment that is too busy versus creating an environment that is rich. Be aware of overcrowding. Try to keep it simple, but make sure that you are giving pupils enough information. In this example, in the pictures, we've got a school timetable in French. It's produced in large print with Braille and buttons that have the recording of the French words on them. In this example, for a primary school class, up at the very, very top for the staff's benefit are words in Polish because there's a Polish pupil in the class. The board itself is created in large print, Braille, board maker symbols, and recorded buttons to enable access for every pupil in the class. Again, in the environment, labeling of rooms or materials in both large print and Braille includes the pupil in the organization. Thank you for watching, and if you require any further information, feel free to contact us at the Royal Blind Learning Hub.